Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Nam Jaiva Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Hiraye Nastakreshu Hadeshu Nityamagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtiki.
To account rule. That's the whole scheme here. And in Persia, spoken with these verses, and now the first night of the Dharma. Let's just say, we should probably ask me. Personality or religion say these words just quote, you benefit the person captivated by the devotional qualities, speaking Lord Krishna, personality of Godhead, perform duties as messenger.
O greatest among human beings, it is very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant who has caused our sufferings, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers.
Some of the philosophers who deny all sense of duality, that one's own self is responsible for the personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause.
There are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your own intelligence. The Vaishnavites, the devotees of the Lord, do believe, as above explained, that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. He is the supreme director, for he confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15 that he, as all-pervading Paramatma, stays in everyone's heart and keeps vigilance over all actions and witnesses all activities. The argument of the atheist that one cannot be punished for one's misdeeds unless proved before a qualified justice is refuted herein. For we accept the perpetual witness and constant companion of the living being. A living being may forget all that he might have done in his past or present life, but one must know that in the same tree of the material body, the individual soul and the supreme soul as Paramatma are sitting like two birds. One of them, the living being, is enjoying the fruits of the tree, whereas the supreme being is there to witness the activities. Therefore, the Paramatma feature, the Supreme Soul, is actually the witness of all activities of the living being,
and only by his direction can the living being remember or forget what he might have done in the past. He is, therefore, both the all-pervading impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma in everyone's heart. He is the knower of all past, present, and future, and nothing can be concealed from him. The devotees know this truth, and therefore they discharge their duties sincerely without being overly anxious for rewards. Besides that, one cannot estimate the Lord's reactions either by speculation or by scholarship. Why does he put some into difficulty and not others? He is the supreme knower of the Vedic knowledge, and thus he is the factual Vedantist. At the same time, he is the compiler of the Vedanta. No one is independent of him, and everyone is engaged in his service in different ways. In the conditioned state, such services are rendered by the living being under force of the material nature, whereas in the liberated state, the living being is helped by the spiritual nature in the voluntary loving service of the Lord. There is no incongruity or inebriety in his actions. All are on the path of absolute truth. Bhishmadev correctly estimated the inconceivable actions of the Lord. The conclusion is, therefore, that the sufferings of the representative of religion and the representative of the earth, as presents before Maharaj Parikshit, were planned to prove that Maharaj Parikshit was the ideal executive head because he knew well how to give protection to the cows, the earth, and the brahmanas, religious principles, the two pillars of spiritual advancement. Everyone is under the full control of the Lord. He is quite correct in his action when he desires something to be done by someone, irrespective of the consideration of the particular case. Maharaj Parikshit is thus put to the test for his greatness. Now let us see how he solves it by his sagacious mind.
So Maharaj Parikshit is asking Dharma, well, who's attacking you? And it's like, imagine you were standing in front of this person and this person is being attacked by. Who is attacking you? You see, he's being attacked by Kali. And Kali's standing right there. But Maharaj Parikshit is asking him. And then Dharma also doesn't just say, well, this guy is right here. He's attacking. He doesn't quite say that. He says, well, in many things, some say it's the planet, some say it's this, some say it's the mind, and so forth. And so, and then of course, then he says, previous verse that some philosophers say it's the self. The own self is responsible for his own personal happiness and his distress. And then finally he says, and then he just says to encourage it, "O sage amongst things, judge for yourself by thinking of all this with your own." So later we see the verses how King Parikshit says that, yeah, you are a dharma, you are a religion person. And religion, in especially in the West, has a bad connotation. It's problematic and so forth. But dharma it's a little different from what religion means. Dharma literally means what is one's nature, what is the dharma of works to do that. Dharma of fire is to be heat and light. And so that's the nature, the core innate nature of something. So dharma is for a soul is to serve. Everybody serves somebody. Isn't there a song? You gotta serve somebody. So I think it was inspired. And so the nature of the soul is to serve. And so the question is, who will one serve? Will they serve just their own senses, like whatever I want? That's what's going to be. It's chocolate. It makes me happy. But in the broader realm, what is it that makes a person happy? And these verses, they really tie into the age-old question: why do bad things happen out there, and all kinds of things, some good, some bad, some mixed, and there's just the average person just going about his day and I remember one time when I was living, I had a service that I would someday I would just be the temple and everything else. So over a period of time, it's like a relationship and noticing, remembering his name. And so one time this older, she and her husband had come previously. This time she just came. I was like, "Oh, where's your husband?" It's devastated. She said, "Just died." So he went to work. He got up. He breakfast. Cool. That's really work. And so that's the nature of this world where we do get used to certain things, but then so that's the question. Why did bad things happen to you? So if that comes up, what would you say based on these verses? What would you say?
Bad things happen to get through because of their past deeds and the present life for past deeds from the previous lives.
Where's that?
The devotees, it's a need of purification, Krishna's purification of us.
Yeah.
Prayers is the long version of the serenity prayer. And it says in part of it, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace.
Yeah, that's also why a lot of people are suffering. Because people don't know why this is happening. Some good and bad things that happen. They don't know the question. Why did this good thing happen? Why did I win the lottery? Oh my God. Well, sometimes in the end they say that. Why did I win the lottery? Why did I get this piece of cake? Oh, that also is something a little bit later. That's cake. Why did this happen to me? Why me? And so that's the perpetual cause of suffering. Something or other happens and the person is so confused. Why? What did I do to deserve this? That's often the question. And some of your answer that you mentioned. It's not necessarily that one is such a bad person that deserve this and bad results all the time. Also, there's a purpose to this world. The purpose of this world is to bring us closer to God. And so there are many lessons in our lives that we learn. And also they're tied in with things we have done this life, in previous lives. And the way we with others, and it comes back to us in ways. And so that's why in talks about how one should not blame the perpetrator of their bad things that happen to them. Because especially that's what Dharma is doing. He's not just saying this person right here. In our life, when something happens to us, we just are very fast to blame the person right next to us. Sometimes they don't even do anything. But it must be him. He's the only other person in the room. And so we're often quick to blame the person. We need something, someone, mostly someone. We need someone to blame. It gives us that relief of it. Must not be me. Must not be my responsibility. It must be this other person who has a sole responsibility of causing this distress to me. But the reality is that person is an instrument. And of course they still have the burden of somebody else. And then they will also get the same reaction. But yeah, for that person it's an instrument. And is the instrument of our own good. So whatever we have done in this time is positive. So when we simply blame that instrument, only that instrument, then what happens is that we do not learn our lesson to learn. And that's why, sorry, speaker. But that's why in the later verses it says that one simply blames the immediate perpetrator, then then they will get the same reaction because you haven't learned your lesson. So if you haven't learned your lesson, then the laws of material nature is that all right, that's gonna happen. Have you ever noticed people are often sad about the same things, but in different circumstances? Wherever they go, they have the same complaints. It's just different. It's a cycle, yeah. It's like just with a different set of people or different set of circumstances. It's basically more or less the same complaints. And so it means that that particular person is not really recognizing the lesson. Instead of that, they just keep blaming everybody. And so initially we don't realize that actually there's something happening. So hopefully one recognizes that, and then it becomes an issue like, all right, yeah, this person is there for the country. And then eventually one realizes actually there's only so much we can do about our world, but there's a lot we can do about a lot we can work on.
I heard one time, like wherever I go, there problem, and that like if there's a donkey in Florida, you can put him in a crate and you ship him to California. When he gets to California, he's still a donkey.
Still a donkey. True, the title of this class. Once a donkey, always a donkey. All right, thank you. It's funny because yesterday I saw this artwork of Ravana flying off the Sita, and Arjuna horses are put in a chair, donkeys in his chair. Yes. I don't know if it's accurate, but yeah. So there are so many lessons that one needs to learn, and that's why Parishit says the king says to Paul that you are religion personified, because you have understood. Religion means to understand the purpose of this world. That's what they boils down to. We understand the purpose of this world, we understand our purpose, and then we are able to implement it. And religion is not just a set of rules and regulations, and you gotta thumbs up on the audience. Religion means actually finding our true purpose, realizing that we are servants of God, and really finding our own way of serving God. That is what true religion is. It's not just some rules. But yeah, so that's the crux of these verses. Any thoughts or comments before we go ahead?
You ask freedom. I wonder if people ever wonder why good things happen. Because we think it's a given. It must
I
happen.
deserve it.
Right.
Of course.
So, and I guess the secret of happiness is to be grateful for when you get things, and also be grateful when bad things happen. The only constraint, don't question that. Don't question good things. That's what like it's not said. It's norm for you is the only good things happen.
I won't say too much on this because I think this is a good example and part of our philosophy that we do. But before we go there, I was also thinking, and when 9/11 happened, I was kind of a shocker to America. There was a rabbi, and he was quite shocked. And I think there was some connection. He was in New York, so there was some connection with some family members. Anyways, he was shocked, and he was trying to figure out like how could this happen? Good people and such a intense, and such an intense attack on just regular people. And so he started, philosophizing that, well, God cannot be all powerful because if He is all powerful, how would He allow things to happen? He should have stopped. So either that, or He's not all good. Because if He's all good, then He's all good. So his conclusion was like, no, God is all good. He's a good person, but perhaps He's not all. Sometimes He's conflict stuff. And when you look at God from those lenses, one might come to it. But from the Bhagavatam, we understand that Krishna is all powerful, but it is our activities that bring us peace. Reward results, and its karma is very material nature, and karma is very complicated. The things that happen to us can't just be explained necessarily by looking at our life. One prime example is Dhritarashtra, who was in Parikshit's great grandfather, or great grandmother. And Dhritarashtra was a strong personality, and but he had offended somebody, a slave or something, and done something. And so for that reason, he got the result that he was going to lose hundreds of his sons. But when he got the result, he had not accumulated or that extent. But he hadn't accrued the piety to have 100 sons, 100 kids. And so for several lifetimes, he had to get the piety to actually be able to have 100 kids. And finally, when that happened, he had 100 sons. Several lifetimes. So karma is complicated. We don't know. So at the same time, to quote this point, but as we study this philosophy, and it's not to bash people like, well, you deserved it, and that was complicated. That's not the point. Is that it should evoke compassion to the heart of the people. There is suffering. There is not the suffering, but people are lost because there's so much confusion. Spiritual teacher, really showing what reality is. That's the premise of the Bhagavad Gita. And asks that one kind of auspicious please show. And so for us also, when we look at when spiritually, and in this world, oftentimes it's like a solution to a particular problem, and we just try to solve it. All right, we don't have money, let's see how we can make it. That's all good, but at the same time, it's to have a spiritual solution also, because the problem is actually inherently spiritual. It's not material. The reason there are all these material problems is because it's a loss of the connection with oneself and with God. When really realize it, then there's a paradigm shift. The religion of Christian consciousness is actually all about a paradigm shift. It's not about, oftentimes in many religions, ideas like, well, if you're pious, if you go to the church, you go to the temple, God will give you all the resources that you need. actually Krishna consciousness, of course, like it, but also Krishna goes further. He goes further and helps us change our vision of the world. Realizing that this world is not for us to be served; it's actually for us to serve God, not just to get whatever we want. And the beauty of it is that when one does serve God, one does live a happy life. There's so many things. I mean, there's especially in Krishna consciousness, there's no dearth of good food. One shall never go hungry in the Hare Krishna movement. There will always be some spiritual food or prasadam for one to consume. Right, Mr. Martha? That true? Have you experienced that growing up in the Hare Krishna movement? Or gone hungry? I think I can only remember one day when I was really it's a fast day. Yeah. And, one time Amrita Keli, she was in Vrindavan, and she decided she was doing breakfast since my dear sister Amrita Keli. She decided randomly that that I'm just gonna see what God sends me. And actually, she was studying the Isha Upanishad. So in the Isha Upanishad, it talks about Koda, what's your Koda? They have a verse, they were joking, so you're not thinking mother house, right? What's the English for Koda or something? Because we said Koda is more of a British word. I said, what's the American word for it? I said, there's no word. Americans don't think they have a Koda. They just think. No offense to Americans. This is but that's the idea. So she was thinking, okay, I'll just sit and wait. Whatever is my quota, I'll eat that. And she said somehow somebody would just bring her some prasadam and food from the temple because she was the right there. Somehow or the other, she never went hungry for a whole week, and then she was very lucky. I tested my, and that's good enough. Now I will go eat myself. But to her point, to the point that the whole week she didn't go out searching for food. Somehow or other came. Roommate would bring something. Hey, how funny. Do you want to? If you are ready, you can go to the kitchen. If you like, you can hang out here too, or you can. Oh yeah, to her point that whatever quota was, Krishna sent one of the others. The same applies to all of us. That whatever quota happens in stress, it will come out. Our quota for sadhana is that one. All that whole user will come to you. This is in Jananda Prabhu, the disciple of Prabhupada. He was so excited about prasadam. He big devotees up in the morning and night, just people all in nuts. Like, this is prasadam, it's spiritual food. Here, eat it. That's why we should do the Bruce every night. Please don't do that. Alright. So, try that. Going back to what we did this philosophy is that we have so many lessons to learn. So these verses shouldn't be looked at and be thought like, well, all these people are comfortable. If you're suffering, well, it's your fault, Prabhu. You have lessons to learn. I'm here to teach you. I do that with partners. But you can't go around doing that. You can ask people. Krishna's teaching you a lesson through me. I'm just an instrument. So it can't be used that way either. And yeah, so the mood is this pastime is a good pastime where there is dharma, and dharma means that there are four kinds of. There's a balanced society. There's the brahmana, the priestly class, or the soft mental, the educators and teachers. Right? And then there's the administrators, the king pariship in this case, who are protectors and they make sure. And then there's the market class that does make sure that agriculture happens, there's resources and so forth. And then there's the work class where they do the work. It's like and so there's these four classes of people. And here in any country, you'll see that there's this four groups of people naturally gravitate to different. And so these four groups of people are very essential for a well-balanced society. And Dharma established these four groups of people are there and they're doing the deeds. And so there's Dharma the bull, who is very and King Parishit realizes, all right, this personality is losing itself. And at the same time, we see how even though Dharma the bull did not point finger to probably was beating him up, King Parishit was ready to kill him. And he was performing his duty against the ministry. So, all these various dharmas, basically, these various roles have to be there. But yes, there are devotees. Those are like they understand that they just they can't just blame people, just blame everybody else and so forth. Sees internally that this is our duty. This is on me, basically. At the same time, then there should be an administration class where they see that, okay, here's this person being injured, because both has to be, otherwise it's very imbalanced. And so we see that also, and especially in the modern times in many churches and and that's where religion gets a bad name because there are people who so they come in as priests. So for that to act up, and there has to be a class of people that actually ensure that that does not happen. And so that's why it's there. That's why the brahmanas are the priests, and that's why the administrators are something like this is not happening. And so that's the example set here where religion means to understand that everything that happens to us is our responsibility. At the same time, there are administrators who make sure because they might not necessarily blame others for the wrong they're doing. So that's why we need administrators to see that this person's acting. And so that is very pertinent to modern day religion society. And any thoughts or comments?
A long time. It's right on this subject about Maharaj. I think he's another really good example. Different chambers of torture. Yeah. His very casual thought was like, "Oh, I probably did something to deserve this," but then he moves on. He doesn't dwell on that, and he's also a 5-year-old boy. This is a picture. And I guess I'd always just wondered, he set such a high bar example, right? So is that an example? And then what he did was he just continued to stay strong in his faith that the Lord would protect him, and he did. And he came in this lion form and he killed all the people that were trying to hurt him. So, and protect him. And then there's the good part, he was able to do that for the people afterwards, right? Well, I guess I just always kind of wondered, with that high level example, we're not going to be able to do that. So
your question is, it's such a high level example. How do you really follow it? Yeah, for us, Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. So it will be a step-by-step thing, and where Krishna will encourage our hearts to really, really become So yeah, it does take time. You know, one should really act based on the realization. And you know, when something like this happens in our life, somebody harasses us, right? So what do we do? If we're too upset, we just go talk to a mentor, or share what's on our mind, and try to. That's one very easy step to do. But as we grow in Krishna consciousness, yeah, that realization has to become very internal. It has to, it comes to a point where one realizes that this material world is not all that it's hyped up for. And it's like Parshad Maharaj also had that deep realization that, that the reality is service to God. And everything else beyond that is basically illusions. And so we gradually work towards that realization. And many times, actually, we see in the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada also talks about it, that many great devotees are put in. And like Pandavas, for example, that was a specific example Prabhupada gave in one of the that not that Pandavas, they had Krishna with them. They had God, right? They went through so much difficulty. And they were kings, they were like princes, you know. And so they had to go through so much difficulty. And Prabhupada realized that. And the answer he gave was that Krishna wanted to show by their example how great devotees respond to situations. And the greatness of the person comes out when we provoke situations. And so when things really provoke us, then we really want to see, how do I want to have a little before we act out. If we can just have a little gap in between us being provoked and acting out, that's a little gap that where we can actually think about it and think, okay, how can I follow in the footsteps of the Vaishnavacharyas, Mahajans, the great personalities in our texts. And then we think of Parishad Maharaj and think like, okay, what do we do? Because the thing is, it's not just that, okay, well, sit in the boiling oil, but it's more so like, what principle would I follow? And how would I apply this principle in my own life? Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need help us come through that. And so, yeah, it's not just cut and dry where you just, tolerate, but it's more so like, okay, how do I use this to my spiritual advantage? What do I do about it? Do I hear more lectures? Do I talk to more devotees? What do I do? One has to act. One has to really apply the principle and really make it practical. It can't just be very, it can't just be on a surface level. Basically, it can't just be copied or. It has to be emulated. It can't just be cut and paste. And it will be different for everybody. Yeah, in this world, we see so many devotees of God. They go through so much. And Prabhupada often talks about Jesus, and he says, "Oh, yeah, Jesus is cool on the cross. It's such an intense thing." But even in modern times, we see it, saints and devotees go through so many things. They often don't talk about it, but they have gone through so many things, and then the same thing with the enemy. So these are common examples. Prabhupada is up there. But if you read more, of course, all of it. But if you read more about the recent development, it's more relatable. It's something more. It might be easier to follow. Because Prabhupada was like some few years ago. Prabhupada's story about the Prabhupada story. To see how the many things they went through and how they tackled many challenges. Practical. Sorry, that's a lot. Not much. Told the story recently about the family, the family.
So they had a little girl at school, on the same road every day. And one day she called her father from school and she said that I couldn't be followed. And as she's talking on the phone, all of a sudden the phone rings up. Father tries to call back and nothing. The girl didn't come back. So he called the police and police said, "Well, we're going to start an investigation, but nothing we can do, just sit and pray." So he said he went to Lord Shinga. He said he prayed to him. He said, "I do Lord, can trust the soul into my care. If it is you desire, please allow it to do service, please protect me." And long story short, she got rescued, but what happened? She got kidnapped and she got put in a car with two people. And they drove outside the city when they stopped and they waited for somebody else to come and pick her up. She was sitting in the back of the car. And the two culprits were standing outside the car. And there was a person who was walking his dog. And he saw the dog was knocking on the window. Got a clue that what was happening. And he told them, he said, "If you don't let this dog go, this dog will whip you apart to eat you alive." And he said apparently the dog had this stature that it could do that. So they let the dog go. And Raj concluded the story that God not come as a half man, half light, comes as a big dog. But we apply the story in our life and pray with it. So
It's funny, Clifford was there was a large church with you about to give protection to the cross, the godliness, and the two pillars of spiritual advancement. Those are these are two pillars of spiritual advancement.
Specifically referring as birth. Yeah, because that's what protects religion. Brahmanas, those who are following religious principles, follow first the people and how and where, how.
I was thinking the thing with Mary with this subject that isn't clear to me. Also, this is it possible? But also very also the same like history, in different ways, not just through people, but also through material elements. So what about that? Like, so I'm not supposed to be like. So I'm like, I mean, we're gonna get a different example. For example, my grandmother's house was impressive with those big things, and these ants like they eat the wood and they carry it and then we're supposed to practice non-violence, but if you don't do anything, then your house is infected. Place and there's action taking place, especially that I heard the verse this morning saying we should practice non-violence, even with like the natural conditions of nature and things like that. I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, for example, somebody's like, oh, act on themselves so that they can eat. So I'm like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, there was a great money. He was fascinated about it. All of that. And who am I to take over the silent so that's why they have done it. But very, very intensely, saintly. And of course, Dr. Tinakan is out there. But yeah, for us, I think I goes to the point where, well, we are calling the test guy. And he's coming today. But also, remind you of a story where Prabhupada was in Bombay. and they were setting up a new temple there. Instead of the temple, they were just out in nature, camping, a lot of mosquitoes, and so Viraj Maharaj was Saudi Prabhupada. There was a mosquito inside, and Viraj Maharaj was doing the same thing. Oh, these long violence, And then after a few minutes, he's like, here, so Prabhupada smashed the mosquito. And Prabhupada said, if they attack you, you have the right to kill them. So with the pests also, if you're causing a lot of disturbance in our lives, something has to be, it's okay. It's really simple. So of course we can't live like Vasudeva Bhatta. So we get inspired for it. But yeah, just practical life, services to go, and then we can ask for forgiveness and say, I'm just doing it out of beauty.
I have a story.
Yeah, it's good. Right?
When Radha first went to Vrindavan, he was told by the authority that he was told a lot of things, but one of the things he was told by authorities that he had to take the weeds out, so that they could offer the fruits and the vegetables to Krishna, right? Because those fruits and vegetables need to be offered to Krishna. And he said the same thing, what if non-violence? And, the authorities gave basically the same kind of response that you gave, that, of course we can't take it that far, but in terms of like weeds or pests or things like that, if it is inhibiting the ability to serve Krishna properly, right, then it is okay. And what Radhanath Maharaj would do is, before he would pluck every single weed, he would chant a full Maha Mantra to the weed and then pluck. Because if it hears the Maha Mantra at the time of death, then that weed is very fortunate.
We'll see how the jivas going back again. He doesn't use that. Yeah, this world, so you can't escape from that. As you walk, as you breathe, that's why the Jains is specific. Some of them are over through it. That's not it. They're just feel lost. How? They don't breathe in the insect. So, for the wrong. So, there's that, but you can't escape it. So, this is how it lives that serves Krishna.
That's one of the reasons we chanting Krishna. If we kill somebody with living entities every time we strike a match or move or whatever, we step on God's unbelief. We should do anything like that to excess. We're using it as an excuse, because it's explained that that's one of the reasons we chant. It's unavoidable.
Yeah. And the Gita Prabhupada said, Vaishnava is one by it's a matter of
Krishna Balagoyamoy Parivale Jivajai Swam Prashananda Kilovar Seyanam Ritaka Radha Krishna Gunaga Preme Dako Chaitanya Nitai Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,